to see all of you, and thank you to the candidates for coming tonight. I am the president of the Oak Park River Forest Chamber of Commerce, and we are thrilled to talk tonight to all of the candidates for village president in Oak Park and River Forest. I am going to turn it over to Liz, who is going to tell you what the format is for tonight.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, especially on this incredibly beautiful day where we're all frantically trying to find that amazing patio that a restaurant has opened up at short notice. But welcome. I'm thrilled that you're here. My name is Liz Holt. I'm the Executive Director of the Oak Park and River Forest Chamber of Commerce. This is our usual time slot for our business after hours, which is our monthly networking event, pre-COVID times, and hopefully really soon. This time slot is where we would have 100, 120 people together, eating, drinking, networking, and getting to know each other. So it's a time to be casual and lively and friendly. So that is the spirit in which we're going to have our event tonight. I know people have seen a lot of panels in the last month. Our candidates have been put through the ringer in those panels. But a lot of times they don't get to see the people they're talking to. They're talking to themselves into a screen. So tonight, I think you can notice we haven't put it on Spotlight. You can see all of the people that are here in this room. We had close to 100 people RSVP to come tonight. We've already got 55 people. That's the kind of spirit we want to have. We would ask that you leave your grievances at the door. This is not the time to air those grievances. We have more than enough time on social media. Of course, we all know that. Leave it to there. Tonight, we want to be civil and we want to get to know each other. So very quickly, our format for tonight is, like I said, a little bit more intimate. So once we've finished our introductions here in this central room, we're going to split up the group into 4 breakout rooms. Each breakout room will have a board member, a chamber board member, who will be facilitating the discussion. And each room will then have one of our candidates. The candidates will rotate through the room. So once you get into your room, you will stay there with your facilitator for the evening. So take that time to get to know people. We encourage people to turn on their cameras, turn on your microphones. These candidates are really going to get much more into a groove if they can see your faces and they can hear your laughing, your grunting, your sighing. So let them know what you think. They might ask you questions as well, and take the time to engage. We will be recording the session, and the recording will go with room 1. So if you end up in room 1, you don't want to be recorded, please do feel free to keep your camera off. If you want to move to a different room because of that recording, you can just come out of the room and I will put you into a new one. If by perchance you hit the big red button in the bottom right-hand corner and you get yourself out of this Zoom, I will be there in the central room the whole time. Just come on back in and I'll pop you into a room again. It's really not a problem. Right now, life happens. All it takes is a child or a cat or something to happen and you've got to step away. So that's totally fine. We are here to talk about business. We are the Oak Park River Forest Chamber of Commerce. So I would ask that your comments about culling deer, affordable housing, equity, policing, all of those really incredibly important topics, that we maybe put them aside. We're here to talk about small business. It's been one hell of a year for our business community, and it's going to be one hell of a 4-year stint for these candidates, whoever is going to win the election for these village presidents, to help our businesses recover. That's what we're here to talk about. I also really want to acknowledge that we've got business owners here who might live in River Forest and work in Oak Park or vice versa. We have very intentionally asked the candidates for both villages to be here for a discussion tonight. We don't all live in isolation. We know that people from River Forest come on over to Oak Park for their coffee and their food. We also know that people in Oak Park go on over to River Forest to see the forest preserves. There's some awesome chocolate shops there and greenhouses, and so we go back and forth. So it's really important for you to know, and for the candidates to know, that we are the Oak Park River Forest Chamber of Commerce. We represent 2 distinct and yet very similar communities. What else? I want you to keep your cameras on. If you're into it, please speak up. And that's about it. I'm going to hand it right back over to Marianne.
All right, awesome. We are going to go to Mark for a few chamber announcements because we always do that at our business after hours events.
Thank you. Just a few quick things coming up. So next Tuesday, the Chamber's Young Professionals are gathering again on Zoom, and we're going to learn about baking from pro baker Shayna Tavares of Blackout Baking, who is somewhere out there in this call. So if you want to learn how to make amazing banana bread or muffins, join our Young Professionals next Tuesday. Next Wednesday, the Chamber is doing our Chamber 101 series. That one's focused on how to make the most of your online electronic membership in the Chamber. So if you're part of the Chamber or want to find out what the Chamber can do for your business, feel free to join us next Wednesday afternoon for that one. Next Friday, our Takeout series continues. Every other week for the last like 8 months or whatever, we've gone to a different restaurant to order food and support them. So we're going to Poke Burrito next Friday. So feel free to get your lunch ordered on our website. And then next Friday is also Women in Business, our multi-village collaboration. Next week will be hosted by the Maywood Chamber of Commerce, Women in Business. So if you are a woman in business or a woman who wants to get into business, anything like that, feel free to join us for that. You can register for all of our events on our website at oprfchamber.org. There's a button on the left of your screen that says events or calendar or something like that that takes you right to where you can sign up. Thank you, Marianne.
All right, awesome, Mark. Thank you. So here's what is going to happen next. I am going to call on each candidate. I want you to tell us your name, tell us your current job or position without going on and on in detail, because we'll do that in the breakout rooms. And then I have a brand new question for the candidates. We've asked the same question the last 2 rounds, but I'm going to read off the new one. Mark Walden gave me a list of very creative ones, and so I picked this one. So I am going to read off the question, and then I'm going to call each of you. More than 200 people so far have spent time on the International Space Station, including space tourists, but there are no stores or restaurants to serve them. What do you think should be the first space business added to the space station? Okay, and the lucky person who's going first is Patty. You are muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Liz and everybody else part of the Chamber for providing this opportunity. So I am Patty Hennick. I live in River Forest. I am currently the coordinator of the Holiday Food and Gift Basket Program, which is a long-time program in Oak Park, River Forest area, and I am also currently a village trustee. So a business for the space station. That's a good one. I guess I'm not going to say a specific name, but I'm going to say a restaurant that would allow for build your own type meals, right? Where you have options to give multiple choices for people, because with 200 people, you know, I was a picky eater, so I would like to have choices. So some type of restaurant that would allow for choices, build your own meals.
Very good. Thanks, Patty. Kathy, you're up.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you. Thank you, Marianne. And thank you to the Chamber for hosting this wonderful event and forum. My name is Kathy Aducy. I am the village president of the Village of River Forest. I am a retired executive. I was vice president and general manager for a company called Unisys Corporation. It's a technology, Fortune 500 technology company. I retired roughly 6 years ago. So I'm currently on several profit and nonprofit boards, which I enjoy immensely. So, well, okay, so space business. The thing that came right to my mind, because you talked about bakery goods, remember the moon pies? So I think I would probably hire Shanna to do some bakery goods and create some moon pies.
That sounds great.
Very nice.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
All right, Kate, you're up.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Kate Redling. I am most recently the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Park District of Oak Park. I exited that position in November because e-learning for kids is like 4 full-time jobs. So that is my thing right now. I think the business that I would open on the space station would be a bookstore.
Sounds excellent.
Nice.
Okay, Vickie. Vickie, you are up.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you everybody for hosting this tonight. This is wonderful. So my name is Vickie Scaman. I'm the current village clerk, candidate for village president. The first thing that came to mind was just like hydration. Like I just thought like lotion all over my face and everywhere and liquids like so. But maybe, you know, the assortment's going to have liquids of all different kinds, from matcha tea to, you know, that maybe that's something that I can spice the matcha tea with. So we'll go with a smoothie shop. How's that?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, Vickie. Okay, Liz, are we ready to go?
We're totally ready. Okay.
All right, we're going to split up in our rooms now.
Okay.
Hi there, how are you?
We'll just wait a moment before we get started.
Hi, Sam.
Hello, everybody. Just making sure everybody is in.
Definitely some familiar faces.
Gotta say, I think we got the stacked room. Man, what a group, what a group. So my name is Sam Youssef. I'm the Vice President of the Oak Park River Forest Chamber. I'd like to welcome everybody. I would like to also ask if everybody, if they don't mind, if they can actually take their video block off so we can see everybody who's on the call. I think it makes for a much more productive conversation. And so the way we'd like to start things is, you know, give you a few moments, Patty, to go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us why you're running. Try to keep it to a minute. We only got 15 minutes and we got a couple of questions we'd like to get to.
Sure.
And at any time, you know, people who are within our call, please feel free to ask a question, raise your hand, and I will call on you. I want it to be as, you know, productive for us as it is for the audience as well as for the candidates. So with that being said, go ahead, Patty, please introduce yourself and give us briefly, you know, why you're running.
Okay. So just briefly, I will tell you that my husband and I have lived in River Forest in our current home for 20 years. We have 2 grown sons who went through District 90 and District 200 for school. I was very involved in District 90 as the boys were growing up and involved in other community programs, which really led my interest in serving the community even more so. The more I learned and got involved, I recognized that I had leadership skills and the community experience to serve the board at a higher level as a village trustee. So I ran and became a village trustee in 2017. And through the course of my time on the board, we covered a gamut of topics. And through that experience, I recognized that there were things that we are doing really well. And I would like to continue that and build on those things. But I also recognize that there are things that we could be doing better. In the course of my conversations with residents, I'm hearing that they would like to see us doing some things differently. I think when it comes to our businesses in particular, I think we could be doing a much better job, more equitable job in reaching out to our businesses and supporting them, especially at this time during COVID. So I made the decision with the support of my family, because it does take family support, as all these meetings are showing us, takes time away from families. And so they need to be willing to kind of go without having me around doing different things and supporting that. So it's with their support I made the decision to run for village president.
Well, thank you very much, Patty. Appreciate it. So first question, business related, of course. So
Yes.
Amongst other things, the pandemic has highlighted the importance of a thriving small business community. Small businesses are the heart and blood of our economy, employing 50% of our country's workforce and playing pivotal roles in a community's overall health and well-being. This trend is undoubtedly evident in our communities of Oak Park and River Forest. That being said, one of the most frequent challenges we hear from our business community is the lack of a business support system from the villages, from the respective villages. This issue was prevalent well ahead of the pandemic and continues to be that way to this day. So if you're elected as village board president, what would you do to address that and supporting our small businesses?
Right, right. No, I do think that we could be doing a much better job in River Forest. For one, helping to encourage our businesses engage with the Oak Park River Forest Chamber of Commerce. I know the participation of River Forest businesses is not as high as it could be. As president, I personally, in light of COVID, would take the time to do a listening tour for our businesses to hear where they are currently, what challenges they see in this current moment, but what they see moving forward. I would direct staff to work towards drafting a budget that the board could consider in terms of offering business grants to our businesses. But most importantly, with doing that, we need to establish some parameters when we're supporting our businesses so that there's equitable access to grants, support, our village platform. I've been concerned that there was a point where businesses were being shared via our village newsletter and Facebook, in part, not necessarily even River Forest businesses, right? And not really with parameters to how other businesses can engage in that. And so I think it's important for us to be out in the community. I feel as if just as newer residents don't necessarily know their elected officials, the same is true for businesses. Some of our business owners are residents and maybe they know some of us, but not everybody is. And so I think it's important for us to be intentional about going out to our businesses and hearing their needs.
So do you, in reading some of the information that you've put out and going along the lines of what you just said, the structural changes that you're advocating for, how do you feel that you would be successful in doing that from a governmental standpoint? Because some of those changes do require structural changes in exactly the way governance is set up in River Forest. And do you feel that you have the support of the residents and the current, basically the current group that currently governs River Forest?
Well, I think that if given the opportunity to have this broader conversation, we've never really had a robust conversation at our board table in this regard. Back in November, our Economic Development Commission did have a conversation about how to support our businesses during COVID. And right after that meeting, I did submit to our EDC chair and staff suggestions on things that we could be doing for our small business. Several of those were implemented, but the one thing that wasn't was for us to have a conversation at the board table to again talk about these policies that we could put in place to make it more equitable for our businesses. And so I think given the opportunity, I don't think anybody would deny we should be supporting our businesses. I think it takes somebody to kind of take the lead and bringing that conversation forward to really make it happen. And at this point, I don't feel that has happened. I know I suggested it and it didn't happen at that point, and I would make a point of making sure that we do have these conversations.
So what is your current plan, if you're elected, to attract new businesses to River Forest? What does River Forest have to offer new small businesses?
Well, I think, we are challenged in River Forest in that we're a much smaller community than Oak Park. I again think we need to, when we are looking at development along North Avenue or potential development along Madison, I think we need to work with businesses and experts who have these connections to attracting businesses. I think we have to be mindful, for instance, in the case of the Lake and Lathrop development, we had 6 businesses in place. And a lot of this work happened before my time, but I believe we should have done a much better job in trying to navigate what was going to be the impact to those businesses. And so The same would be true if we were to make changes, you know, if there was space on North Avenue that we were going to potentially look to develop. If that was going to impact any businesses, it has to be a joint communication in terms of what support they might need to either continue in that space as improvements are being made, or helping them to relocate if that's a potential. But again, it has to be done in a way that is being fair to businesses in general. So again, back to Lake and Lathrop, is that I don't believe that there was an equitable outreach to businesses to really help them all and to encourage them to try and stay in River Forest. When you look at town center, you know, we can have a turnover there. And so trying to stay in conversations with the various business, the landowners, right, the property owners of those businesses, working with them when they see leases coming up, right? And so that we can help, whether it's through our Economic Development Commission, using that resource to help attract businesses, whether it's putting it out more broadly in retail type publications, or working with brokers who work in that business area to try and help fill those vacancies, I think would be ways to attract businesses and then support the existing businesses.
Well, for the audience, does anybody within our collective group have a specific question for Patty? You just raise your hand and unmute yourself. Before I go on to my next question, anybody? Okay, so my next question is, so both you and your opponent have indicated a strong support for the Twin Village Covenant with Maywood, right, which at this point is nearly 8 months, and it originally included 5 foundational tenets. If elected as village president, what would you do to further this documented relationship so it does not appear to be just symbolic? And more specifically, what would you do regarding expanded business opportunity and residential developments with Maywood?
So the Maywood Covenant is something that I mentioned in a forum this past Saturday that really confirmed my decision to stay on the board, because I do think creating a partnership with Maywood, having more of a regional, is important for helping both of our communities. You know, we've had a more of a natural relationship with Oak Park, and I think there are opportunities for us to partner with Maywood. The thing with Maywood at this point is that because we have this history of not being as neighborly as we have that similar partner with Oak Park, I think the beginning steps have to be trying to find ways to start building some relationships with our neighbors to the west and establishing some trust. And so I personally see that as, you know, initially doing things utilizing the forest preserve space, which has been a very convenient barrier over the years, but using that space to bring our communities together. For instance, having similar to a day in our village in Oak Park, doing a day in our villages, and having, you know, out in one of their fields, having the various programs, businesses that both of our communities have to introduce each of our communities to what we have to offer, using that space to do other programming to build relationships with the Maywood community. And it's then through that, the more you have those interactions and having conversations with people, that it then leads to thinking about some of these bigger opportunities that we might have. I personally, when that covenant was presented to me from Miguel Jones, my understanding of the covenant and those 5 items was not that those should be the end-all be-all things that we should work for and then consider it done, like, you know, continue to check a box, okay, we did all 5, we're done. To me, my understanding of it was more of, here's an example of what we could do, right? Let's go into this partnership. And for instance, here are some things that we can do. Let's explore these options and see what works. But I personally want to encourage and welcome the community at large to think out of the box, get creative, and think about any way that we can collaborate. Immediately following that, we had the youth soccer, the head of the River Forest Youth Soccer reached out to Maywood to have a partnership, inviting students there since there isn't the program in Maywood. We had another group reach out who does a lot with Little Bits, the workshop, and wanting to do some sort of public art piece on the bridges at Washington, bringing the two together. So I think there's endless opportunities. I personally would like to encourage people to bring forward any ideas we might have. And then, like I said, once we start these relationships, it can lead to bigger things like looking at infrastructure, like encouraging people to utilize our businesses and stores. The reality is for River Forest is that, again, we don't necessarily have a booming business market. So we want to complement each other.
Well, you know, Patty, along those lines, that's one thing that Maywood is asset rich in. They're asset rich in infrastructure and land and development opportunities.
Right.
So if you're elected, would you believe that you would be able to pursue such an initiative to do any sort of co-development that would benefit both villages, whether it's commercial and or residential?
I think it's worth exploring for sure. It would definitely be something that I would want to try and realize, see where it works, how it could work.
So I'll go back to the collective group. Does anybody have any specific questions for Patty? I can't believe we have this. Do I need to like just start calling on you guys? There we go. All right, Shayna.
Shayna.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, Shayna.
I guess kind of a broad question, like if elected village president, what do you think an issue is something that you want to tackle? Like what's kind of the biggest thing that you want to change about something about River Forest and how we do things?
And how we do, okay, so not necessarily something physical or specific, but in terms of process, how we do things, right?
Yeah, could be anything, but kind of like what's your kind of, if you could change one thing, what would it be?
Right. Well, an important thing that, I mean, I have more than one, but one area that I have talked quite a bit about and in with conversations with residents is improving our commission process and our appointment process. We have multiple commissions and that I think are great. I mean, in terms of, I love the commission process and that it allows more residents to be part of the decision-making process. We have people that have a passion, expertise around a given area that may not have the time or interest in actually sitting on the village board. And so getting involved on one of our commission allows them to learn more about our community, but then also allows them to, again, offer their expertise around a given topic. And so I value that when we have people on our commissions for a bit of time, you've had that historical knowledge, but I recognize that our community is evolving and we have a lot of new residents. And so I want to be able to open the process so that newer residents feel that they can also be considered for these positions and know how to engage and get involved. And so I would advertise when positions are available. I would really open it up more for board input in terms of when we're making these decisions for our commissions. Because when you're looking at the commissions, you know, for instance, our development review board, our zoning board, they're making decisions that, you know, literally are impacting the quality of lives, impacting our property values, making decisions about businesses, right? In terms of if a development goes in again, like at Lake and Lathrop, what's that going to look like? What sort of businesses are we going to approve or not in a development like that? What, in terms of zoning, what are we going to allow in terms of height and bulk and all those sort of things? And so I think it's very important to make sure that we're getting people on our commissions, that they understand the commitment of being on those commissions, that we're training those commissions so that everybody is well informed when they're making these decisions. To me, it's an important thing, and I would like to improve that process from what we have currently.
Does anybody else have any questions for Patty? So, Patty, my next question is regarding to the current TIF districts that are in River Forest. You've spoken a lot about them, and I don't know, you know, collectively for the group and part of business development, what are your thoughts on either expanding, terminating, extending, et cetera, those tips to help support business development in those areas. And briefly for the group, if you can tell us where those tips currently exist.
Sure. We have a TIF. The first TIF on Madison was created just before my time on the board, so just before 2017. And then after I was elected around 2018, we created the TIF on North Avenue. What I think we need to do on both places is to really have more robust conversations around what our vision is for both of those areas. On Madison, we've done it a bit more. We have done some property acquisition. We purchased, again, not long after my time on the board, we purchased the Children and Family Services building right at just west of Lathrop there. And then we've also purchased 2 homes, one on Lathrop and one on Ashland, with the intent of trying to assemble some properties that might be more appealing to potential developers. The lots on Madison are fairly narrow, and so being able to potentially widen that a little bit to make it a more appealing to potential developers was the intent there. I believe that we have to be way more proactive at this point to start moving this process along. Again, like I'm saying, bringing in some experts who can help attract some of those. I know our village administrator, Eric Palm, and one of our EDC members was supposed to be putting together more of a robust RFP to go out, a request for proposal to potential developers to see what we might get in terms of an interest developing there. So I think we definitely have to have more of an established vision of what we want to see in these areas. I think we have to be more proactive and really trying to attract some development in those areas. You know, unfortunately, it does take some time, which I appreciate. So in terms of you saying getting rid of it or not, you know, TIFs, they allow for it to be extended because it can take some time. So I appreciate that we don't want it to go too long. We're not just going to sit on it for the sake of sitting on it, right? We have to be, I think, more, again, proactive in doing something and not just letting it ride out without specific ideas.
Well, I appreciate it, Patty. They're going to ask you to leave the room. So it was great meeting you virtually.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to meet you. I appreciate everyone making the time today. Thank you.
Sorry, I unmuted. I didn't get a chance to ask my question.
Oh, you know me. You can ask me.
Sorry, I kept hitting the wrong button.
Sorry. That's cool. You can go with first question with next candidate. So.
Oh.
I think we're going to end up having Kate join us now. So please, you know, I would ask you guys, don't be bashful. I don't want to do all of the talking. You know, I'm actually modifying my questions as I go along, as Jenny is probably well aware of. So. Let's see if she's in. While we have a moment, is everybody collectively okay with the format that we're currently doing? Is there any modifications or changes you think we should implement? Other than all of you being a little bit more vocal? No? Okay.
I'm curious how many people are River Forest residents or have businesses in River Forest versus Oak Park? River Forest?
Hands, River Forest?
3. Awesome.
There's Kate.
Hi, room 1.
Hi, Kate. How you doing?
Awesome. How are you?
Good, good. Kate, so having this is Sam. How are you?
Yeah.
Having watched and listened to you over the last few weeks, I'm just going to preface and that I may have to cut you off as we're getting on certain topics. I'm just kidding. Just, you know, from a time standpoint. But I would like you to take a minute to introduce yourself, because we do have residents here from River Forest as well. And some people may have not met you, may have heard of you, etc. So if you don't mind telling us briefly about yourself and why you're running.
Don't mind at all. If you want.
Go right ahead, Kate.
Okay, Sam, just put your hand up when you want me to stop with my introduction.
Okay.
That would help.
No problem.
Or you could mute me if you have the power.
No. Go right ahead.
So my name is Kate Redling. Thank you so much for making this happen. I have moved to Oak Park 11 years ago with 5-year-old twins and a 3-year-old in early childhood. So finding a great school was really, really, really important. I was moving here from a very small town in Connecticut where I felt like I was the only diversity, and I wanted to mitigate that. I met a lady at the airport who was there for the Olympic bid display. I saw her and I went to her and asked her if she had a map of Chicago, and we started talking, and she said, "Oh, you need to go to Oak Park." I didn't even know about Oak Park. I was going to all these other places to look at. So I drove to Oak Park and I thought to myself, I need to find a coffee shop and a school and a playground. And I found myself at the corner of Jackson and Ridgeland, and I saw Buzz Cafe, and I saw a veterinarian, which was also important. And I saw Longfellow School and the soccer field, and it was a Sunday and there were kids playing street hockey on Elmwood. And I was like, this is it. I knew this was where I wanted to be. So I now have 4 kids in 3 different schools. I have a bi 3rd grader, an 8th grader at Julian, and my twins are sophomores at OPRF. And the engagement that we wanted to find. Oh, did I lose you guys?
No, we're still here.
Oh, okay. But you're not on my screen. What happened?
Oh.
Sorry. So the engagement that I wanted to find, there you are. My computer decided to move you. Came through church and scouts and the PTO and the Park District of Oak Park. I was hired there as the sponsorship coordinator, which I did for 3 or 4 years. That was an awesome job that I loved very much. My background is in marketing and advertising and sales, and that was an opportunity to live and work in my community and to partner with small businesses in a really wholesome, effective, amazing way by finding sponsorship opportunities with the Park District. So I loved that job. I transitioned into the community outreach coordinator position, which I also loved. I left the Park District in November, primarily due to e-learning for kids was 100,000 times harder than I ever expected, and I needed to focus on that. So I'll just stop with that.
Okay, no problem. So the format is I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. We're going to have people within our collective group. They'll be free to ask questions as well. So, first question and I'm going to premise it with just reading a little bit. Amongst other things, the pandemic has highlighted the importance of a thriving small business community. Small businesses are the heartblood of our economy, employing 50% of our country's workforce and playing a pivotal role in the community's overall health and well-being. This supposition is most evident in our community of Oak Park and River Forest. That being said, our village has seen a systemic and willful degradation of our business support system. This path was chosen well ahead of the pandemic and continues to this day. What are your specific thoughts on the following initiatives? One being, rather than being reactionary to business issues, create a more robust, and I'm going to have 3 of them. The first one's going to be, rather than being reactionary to business issues, create a more robust, responsive business services department. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
That's actually part of my plan. We need to bring Loretta's position back. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Consider recruiting, hiring new staff to implement new ideas to match our village goals and vision. And I preface it that by current staff have been in staff, 12 to 20 years, et cetera, with the same administration at the head of it for the last 3 terms. And so if you're about change, what are your thoughts and what would you change?
I think we should follow suit with the OPEDC, and John Lynch's hire there is a young, fresh, smart, small business focused person, and that's what we need to do. I mean, it's like riding a bike. The direction that you look is where you're going to go, and what you project that you want is what you're going to get. So, yes, I support that.
Any more details as what you would do or what your thought process is? I know OPDC is one, and so collectively from a business perspective, that's one of the things that we're talking about. So attracting a wider range of restructuring and redirecting what they currently do as their basis. Here's what they've been entrusted with. Are you supporting redirecting the
Yes.
what they're currently focused on doing, and what
Absolutely.
what would that entail in your mind?
It would entail basically telling them what you just iterated, that we need to be focused on attracting sustainable and appropriate development. But I think first the village needs to be focused on caretaking of the existing businesses. I promote an economic gardening model that focuses on taking care of who's here. We know in HR and in sales and in marketing that it's much more efficient and much more effective and much more cost sensitive to take care of who's here than to try to replace them.
Does anybody within our collective group have any specific questions for Kate?
Was that number 3 or was that 2?
That was number 3.
Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Sherry. Sherry, go ahead.
Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
Great, thanks. How are you?
Good. So your answer kind of got to me because working in Oak Park for a while, you can bring in new energy, but the old energy can repel everything. And I've seen so many good things stop. How do we get past that? And the second point is, it seems like things in Oak Park, everything's a unicorn, meaning, oh, we're upset about this building. Oh, we're upset about this. Is there a strategic plan? Is there a strategic, do we have a roadmap for what we want to be that has been vetted by community groups, people, residents, our commissions, that sort of thing? It seems like it's just we're having the same argument constantly, and it's frankly exhausting as a resident to be part of this.
Yeah, I think both of those things are kind of from the same piece. Is that to Sam's point, what we see is what we have been asking for. What we have right now is what we have been planning for. That was the roadmap from 8 years ago. And so we do need a different roadmap because I think we clearly don't want to go in the same direction that we're going right now or go the way that we're going. And I think that the way that you've seen lots of opportunities where there has to be a collaboration between how do we manage old energy, existing energy, and bring in new energy. And that has to be done with intention. It has to be done with taking time and being planful about it. And that is definitely a way that has to be, you have to start that way in order to finish that way. So the systemic things, I mean, honestly, I would start with like burning sage everywhere. Let's just clear out the old energy and start anew. I think that when you set the intention and you bring in the pieces, or you make clear what is intended, but you do it in a way that is more inclusive of more people. I think that we've been very clear, but it's been directed from a very few people. But when you're clear with many more people involved in the direction that you're trying to go, then there is buy-in from everyone. And I'm glad you mentioned the commissions, and I think that that's a huge piece of how we do go forward successfully. I already have an ordinance written that will allow us to apply that to our commission structure, that will make it more transparent and accountable immediately, and use that structure. Once it's built that way, when it's that kind of a bus, then the people that want to get on that bus get on that bus. And then we can be very open about the direction that it's going. I hope that's not too esoteric. I don't want to be the one that doesn't answer the question.
Well, I think we also are aware that you kind of have to frame some of your questions in a certain way, just because you may end up working with a lot of these people very shortly. So
I hope to. I definitely hope to.
Mr. Comerford, is it? I think you had your hand up.
Thank you. I'm here with my wife, Mimi. We're in the Arts District on Harrison Street. It's nice to meet you.
I'm
Mimi,
sorry I missed you yesterday, Rick. I'm really sorry.
Oh, that's all right. It's no problem at all. Yesterday, I'm sorry, my wife was on the board of the Arts District here. And my question is about business districts in Oak Park in general, and specifically about the Arts District. How do you see the village's role, and how do you see your engagement with the special business districts that Oak Park has assigned historically? And do you think that the Arts District is an important element to the growth of the community?
Absolutely, yes, 100,000%. I think that Laura Maykirk and the Arts District and that board is a model to look at the way that, to look at the way that engagement and involvement should look. In my role in the Park District as the sponsorship coordinator, I did spend time visiting a lot of different business districts for sponsorship purposes. And I think that the Chamber has made a lot of progress in the past couple of years, inroads into what it could look like to be more collaborative, so that Visit Oak Park and Downtown Oak Park and the Chamber and all of the different business districts are able to be more efficient and effective with the tools that are available. We have so much resource and so many brilliant folks. I've been able to find people on a volunteer basis that have built a tool that lets us look at the budget graphically. So these are things that we can also apply to our business districts that would allow everybody to have more access. I can't remember if I mentioned this here or the last group, but an economic gardening model would also be very supportive of a government supported, so that it's available to everybody, services and an incubator type situation, so that our investments are going into supporting our small businesses, which is also an issue of sustainability. Not only is our housing stock very old and leaky and causing problems in our carbon footprint, but the same for a lot of our businesses. We've seen that with these ice dams, and all of those things are just going to keep happening. We need to start addressing that, and that is a responsibility of government to be helping to subsidize that.
Kate, I do apologize. They're asking us to leave the room, but thank you very much.
Okay, gotta go.
Appreciate it.
Gotta go. Thanks, you guys. Bye, room one.
So Vickie will be joining us next. So if some of you who have not asked a question, please feel free to join in. And I do apologize, I'm going to have to read the same question again. I did preface it differently for the Oak Park Collective Group because we're governed significantly different than River Forest. I'd like to say for better or for worse. I think both have certain benefits to how currently they're governed. And Sherry, do love the unicorn comparison. So just collectively, Oak Park, like Madison Street, had a strategic plan about 20 years ago. It cost about $125,000 to develop and to write, and was done by a collective of public planners, architects, etc. Mm-hmm. Got shelved. So there is a basis. I think, as we collectively think about it, a lot of these initiatives that are being proposed have been proposed in the past, and we like to say they're sitting up on the shelf collecting dust, whether they're sustainability, equitable housing, various types of business development opportunities. They're there. They've been proposed in the past. Hi, Vickie. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, wonderful, wonderful. So this is our collective group. If you could take a moment to introduce yourself. We do have some River Forest residents on the call as well. And just take a brief moment to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running. We only have about a minute, minute and a half or so, so please keep it brief. Go right ahead.
Okay, I'll work to keep it brief. I've been holding everybody up today. Okay, so I'm the current village clerk. I did run a small business once upon a time. It was a restaurant. It wasn't that long ago. It was what got me involved on the Liquor Control Review Board, and I also ran a small non-for-profit. Some of the challenges were very similar in that I had to really get out into the community and be as visible as possible in both situations to have people learn more about the business and the non-for-profit and be part of the community. I'm running for village president because I want to take all that I have learned about the systems that are in our community and work to be ensure that we actually make progress on the things that we hold dear. On racial equity and sustainability and small business recovery from COVID-19, because this is going to be a very crucial next 4 years. And so that's why I'm running. And I was been in Oak Park since 1987, and this is my home. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Vickie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with a brief statement and then a question for you. Amongst other things, the pandemic has highlighted the importance of a thriving small business community. Small businesses are the heartblood of our economy, employing 50% of our country's workforce and playing a pivotal role in a community's overall health and well-being. This supposition is most evident in our community of Oak Park. That being said, our village has seen a systemic and willful degradation of our business support system. This path was chosen well ahead of the pandemic and continues to this day. So I wanted to get your thought on 3 initiatives and if you agree with them, what you would do. 1, consider recruiting and hiring new staff to implement new ideas to match our village goals and vision.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. I did talk about that in another room. You know, we have a development customer services director, and then we have a manager in Cameron Davis who also has to work with parking and liquor permits, licensing and business licensing. And sometimes as the village clerk, I have people coming to me like, wanting to know how it is that they can open a new business or to just get through the permitting process itself. So I can become an advocate, but I'm that advocate because I, can sometimes get up and walk out of my office and say, let me go find that person, make sure they're in the building before I transfer you so they can answer your questions for you. But we need somebody that works for the village manager that is, being held accountable to help small businesses. And we need to reduce some of the barriers to coming to our community. And so we need the communication and between Village Hall and our chamber and our Oak Park EDC and downtown Oak Park and Visit Oak Park to be proactive and collaborative and be really willing to share information. And so that we can think outside the box when we need to respond and pivot during times that we never saw coming, like COVID-19, right? We just didn't see this. I know, having run a small business, that when you're responding to major changes like this after the fact, that it's already kind of too late. That it's difficult to be maintaining your day-to-day and then have to pivot and change when guidelines have changed. So we need a staff person at Village Hall that's accessible and willing to share information, but also understand the barriers that exist, and work to reduce them, and be that person that can also be welcoming to new businesses as they come to Oak Park, so we don't lose them immediately to our neighbors.
So next question or point, support. If you currently support what OPEDC is doing, Or would you consider restructuring and redirecting OPEDC, working on attracting a wider range of developments, both commercially and residentially, to meet our village's goals and vision?
Well, I do believe that the Oak Park EDC needs to be more transparent. I don't plan on, as the village president, be voting twice on things, but I do want to use the resource that the Oak Park EDC has in being a group of business people that have expertise to help advise and to recruit and help us understand where it is that we, how to reach our community's long-term goals. I would prioritize small business over larger business. I know that more of our money stays in recruiting smaller business in our community than it does when you've got a home base that is in Minnesota or another state. I would want the Oak Park EDC to also be using that little bit of their mission statement that is about growing employment for Oak Park, bringing employment and helping businesses that are already here perhaps expand, to be able to use that for some level of business retention, some level of helping businesses that, that maybe need help or could use some technical assistance to imagine themselves growing. And therefore supporting the businesses that are here, but also looking at how in recruiting, we have an opportunity looking into the future in 10, 15, 20 years to, if we're really serious about our racial equity conversations, to be embracing Black and Brown owned businesses and be thinking about how, growing our appreciation for different types of businesses, and so that we are attracting those. The first step to attracting different types of Black and Brown and women-owned businesses is to start with the ones that are already here, and help them feel as if they're really appreciated. And we're having some very difficult but conscious discussions with the Women in Business Affinity Group around race and equity. And we are committing to, when we identify barriers, to bring them forward and to share them with Village Hall and other any area of policy that is going to help grow that welcoming, just be who we say we are, community for integration.
Does anybody on the call have a specific question for Vickie?
Hi, this is, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry, who was, raise your hand?
Michelle Vandalon.
Oh, hi, Michelle. I'm sorry, because we can't see your face. I didn't see. Okay, Michelle, you can go ahead, and then William, you're next. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, Vickie. How are you?
Hi, Michelle. Good to see you. Well, not see you, but hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on the floor, so I thought it'd be easier for me not to go on video. But really quick question. This is regarding Oak Park Development Corp. And you and I kind of had back and forth on this. So when I first opened my business 10 years ago, we were contacted by, I think her name was Sarah at the time, who was over Oak Park Development Corp. And we were asked, hey, Michelle, you're opening, do you need any financing? Do you need any grants? There's a signage grant, there's operational grants. These are all these ways that we can help you and open your business. At the time, I did not elect to go and do any of the grants, but those things were available for small businesses, particularly if you're opening or if you needed extra funding, finances, the grants were available. When I went to Victor and John Lynch, actually probably a couple years ago, they were very clear in sharing with the small business group that is no longer their directive to retain small businesses. Their directive is development. And so there was no place for us to go as a small business. So my question to you is, hearing that from a small business standpoint, how would it change on your directive? Would you redirect the Oak Park Development Corp to truly spend time and strategically retain small businesses? And if so, what would that look like?
Yeah, I had a candidate meeting with them last Friday, and that was my suggestion there. That was what I said to expect from me, is that we need to pivot to and be about that retention, because that's what's needed right now in order to be a more resilient community working together to respond from COVID-19. So to hear that those grants were available, that is going to be a priority for me, and that's the directive I've already gave, and that's how it is that I'm research their mission statement a little bit to find how it is that we could do that. Now, what we're also going to have to seek the revenue source to make it to really support it. So grants and capitalizing on any recovery grants that come our way to our community. I'm going to be proactively pushing for staff to be finding those and prioritizing small business retention and recruitment, but retention for the businesses that are already committed to our community, and really, because we are a village that I believe, just in how we support our non-for-profits too, that this is an important and very important to who we are as a community. Recognizing the people that live here and have businesses here, and the fact that we have as many as we do, I think speaks very high to the importance to concentrate on that. I would also want, as we said, a person at Village Hall that could help with that. What a grant process, helping people through that grant process, the different ones would look like.
Just as a side note, I think, Michelle, that back then we are actually having a discussion about it earlier today within the chamber hierarchy, and I think that there was a actual bank involved. Some financial institutions were involved early on as part of OBEDC, and so I believe they were partnering up and actually may have done some of the funding. And so those types of programs were available back then, and at some point that's no longer the case. And given the banking relationships and the banks that are looking to open up in the area, that may be something the village may want to look at in the future, and to add as a strategic partner some of those lending institutions if they're looking to do business in the community, to obviously help support some of the local businesses.
Well, thank you for that, Sam. But I do hope that we're those federal grant opportunities, and have been successful at identifying those in the past for different resources, different reasons, different initiatives. But thank you for that history.
I believe, and I do apologize, William, there you are up on the top. You had a question?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. You touched a little bit on what I was going to ask, but from my perspective, a lot of the businesses, first you had COVID, then you have the infrastructure changes that are going on, which, literally wipes out the street of a lot of businesses. And it's overall bad timing. And don't get me wrong, you have to have the infrastructure changes, but a lot of businesses are going to need some type of assistance or boost or something once we get out of COVID. What would your initiatives be to help the businesses get back, in essence, what they have kind of lost over the last few months?
Yeah, when I did run a restaurant, which was in Forest Park, it was what's now Francesca's, and we went through construction on Madison Street during that time period, and every night we were building this plywood bridge across the gravel, so that people could walk and get to the restaurant, and put literally tiki torches out there at night to make it inviting. It's very, very difficult, and the timing is horrendous. And yes, infrastructure is important, but man, again, I'll just reiterate how much proactive communication can make all of the difference, even if it's just to feel as if you aren't alone. aren't alone. So, so I think that we're going to have to continue to keep a dialogue going with those businesses, and maybe hear from them a bit what would make a difference for them. I hear that some of those ideas are already coming forward, and so if we can identify those funding resources, and then I would be very supportive of because we lose a lot as a community. I'm sorry, I swiped something the wrong way. We lose, if one of those businesses close, then we lose as a community. So we do need to work to find whatever resources we can to make a difference, and identify from what would make the greatest impact that is still sustainable.
Hey, Vickie, I do have to ask you to leave the room, but thank you very much for
Oh.
participating. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. You can find out more about me at votevickie.org and ask questions. Thank you.
We do have one more candidate. Catherine should be joining us shortly. River Forest residents, have your questions ready. Jenny, I think you're going to have to start telling some jokes soon. Don't you have a stand-up?
What's
No.
everyone eating for dinner? Or what drinks should we get after this?
Oh, yeah. Is Shannon still on the call? She could start telling us about her recipe about making, what was it? Was it banana bread, or what was she going to be doing?
Banana bread. I think
Was it
there
banana
was some
bread?
sort of bread. Yeah, I think she might have.
Did she get off the call?
I think she did.
Because there goes that idea too. I was hoping to get that recipe before she got off the call.
Exactly.
Did they lose her, or is she still in the other room?
I think she's in the other room.
Ah, there she is.
There we go.
Yeah, hi guys.
You know, Kathy, we were going to come look for you. We were like, wait a minute,
I'm here.
did they not watch? Were you in the middle of a long answer?
Yeah, we were talking about Kate standing up. I mean, because I said, when we do these forums, it's so hard sitting down, and I'm in the light, and then you're just trying to find the right spot. And so I said to Kate, "Are you standing up? Because it always seems like," and she said, "Yes." She was standing up.
Yes.
So
So Kathy, this is our room. If you could take a minute and just introduce yourself and tell us, I would say why you're running, but why you're running for another term, I guess.
Yeah, great.
Go ahead, please.
Well, thanks. Again, my name is Kathy Aducy. I think it said a little bit about my background. I have been in River Forest. I'm the River Forest Village President. This is I've been doing it for 8 years, so I'm running for my 3rd term. I am a retired executive vice president and general manager from a company called Unisys Corporation. It's a Fortune 500 technology company located in Philadelphia. I retired as their executive running an $800 million, almost $1 billion operation for their outsourcing U.S. division, and was responsible for thousands of people in those divisions. So I certainly understand about P&L. I certainly understand about income statement and a balance sheet and how important those are to businesses. I know small businesses are slightly different than big businesses, but they're similar in many ways. I mean, I did worry, like everybody else, about paying our employees and keeping our employees. So anyway, I've got an understanding of all that. I'm retired, so I am now sitting on several for-profit and nonprofit boards. The nonprofit boards I sit on are Thrive Counseling Center, which I absolutely love. I'm also on the Fenwick High School board. I'm also on the, I don't know if anybody's heard the Erickson Institute. It's an early childhood postgraduate school, which is great because it's part of our early childhood collaboration that Oak Park has. So it's a wonderful partnership. And then for profit, I'm a director for a small technology firm. And I'm also a director on a bank, Belmont Bank and Trust company, which is, it's interesting being part of a bank because you get to see some very interesting things. Let's see, so I'm running because I really love and enjoy what I'm doing. There's still much work to be done. I'll be honest, that COVID-19 was not in my, my forecast, like many of you. So when we got hit in March of 2020, it took a lot of, I think, management skill and crisis management skill, of which I'm familiar with and I know of. And I think we handled it very well. We communicated to our residents in a most efficient way. I mean, we made executive orders, many of them right away, a mask order. I know I worked with Oak Park on many things. We gave our businesses relief in the business licenses for 90 days. We started a business starter kit plan. So if any new businesses needed to understand, I know how to start under the COVID-19, we had some thinking around that. Our Economic Development Commission then kind of sort of started a video campaign for all of our local businesses just to boost them up and get people to shop local, much like Take Out 25, which I thought was a phenomenal marketing campaign. Anyway, so it kind of threw, I think, us a little bit. And the reason I decided to run again is because we're still not out of the crisis. We're trying to do the vaccine rollout. We're very successful of doing it for our 65 and plus older adults in our community. And there's still things that we need to continue to do, and I want to build on that progress. So I'm really excited about the next 4 years.
So along those lines, what specifically are you doing and would you do for the small business community to continue supporting them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am part of the I'm part of the Illinois Municipal League. It's a advocacy group that basically all municipalities, most municipalities are part of the Illinois Municipal League, and they advocate on our behalf down in Springfield and in the federal government. And so we're not as big as Oak Park or even Forest Park for that matter. So we don't have funds set aside for businesses through other methods. We haven't established that. It might be something we want to talk through about how to create a fund for small businesses. So what we do is have to go down to the state of Illinois and look for grants and funds and so forth for our small businesses. One of the things I'm really excited about, there is a bill right now called Senate Bill 188. If you're not following it, I don't know, you might want to. It's allowing TIF districts to help small businesses through grants. So that would be a way, because we don't have a fund right now. We collect money. Like, for instance, I would love, one of the things we could certainly talk about is a 10 cents, on a plastic bag, which could create, that money that we collect on a plastic bag could go into a fund that could help small businesses. I think that's what Oak Park does a little bit.
Well, Kathy, I'd stop going to that jewel in River Forest then,
Yeah, see? Well, that's a discussion that I'm not saying we're going to do it. I'm saying that's a big discussion that we have to think of. So because we don't have that fund, we have to find grants and funding. So this Senate bill would help us, grow businesses along the TIF district is what I guess is where I'm going.
Yeah, and so you'd be able, with that bill, you'd be able to restructure those current TIFs so they're not, basically designated for what you had currently planned for, and then redirect those potential tax incentives to attracting new businesses or new developments?
Yeah, well, basically it would augment what we could spend the TIF money on, because right now it's primarily infrastructure. So things that would affect the businesses or the development from an infrastructure, sewer, curbs, sidewalks. So TIFs are really restrictive of where you can use the money. Some you can use some real reallocation if it's based on development. But this SB 188 gives it a wider, takes some of the restrictions.
Well, and that's been one of the negatives with certain TIFs is that, because they're most beneficial to larger developments, and that's not necessarily the best interest, not physically feasible in some of the areas that you currently have them.
That's correct. Yeah.
So I kind of have a very, not kind of, but, sort of a direct question, for you. And I hope you don't mind. I don't mean any disrespect by it, but basically, several of the programs that are being promoted some of the people running for trustee and by your opponent, require structural changes to the current governance in River Forest. But River Forest is one of the highest, as you look at it nationally, one of the wealthiest communities in the country, has, I think, 35%, if I recall the numbers I was looking at, in regards to people with advanced degrees. What makes you want to change the status quo?
Okay, let me see if I understand.
Well, in a sense,
I want to change the status quo. I mean, I think you're asking.
Well, in comparison to what's being promoted by trustees that are running, types of changes within the community that are being promulgated by your opponent, and certain things in the sense that advocating, you said, hey, there's still a lot to get done in River Forest. Mm-hmm. And what I'm saying is that compared to what's currently there, what has been there, why change the status quo, so to speak?
Well, I mean, that's what I would advocate. I think if you think about the accomplishments that we've done over the last 8 years, there's a great amount, and I would urge everybody to go to my website, kathy4riverforest.com, and you'll see the chock full of accomplishments that under my leadership and directing the board and the administration, what kind of accomplishments we've done. It's vast. So I'm not quite sure, interesting the structural change, because in fact, it's the first time in our history, we have flattened our tax levy this year. In other words, we did not take our CPI and we did not take our new construction because we could, and because we have good financial policies and good financial practices, and we forecast in a good way, and we look for other sources of revenue, and we cut costs where we need to. So I would say that we are constantly working and changing to do new things. I wouldn't say there's structural issues to it, but
when I say structural issues, governance, basically how the board interacts with you, how the commissions interact with each other, things of that nature too.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. We don't have here, I'll tell you the truth. Over the last 8 years, I voted one time for a tie. One time in 8 years. You know how many times we take a vote at our board meeting? So think about that for a minute, Sam. That means I build consensus consistently with the board. Consistently. We have often a supermajority vote because that's a leadership skill. a leader will know what issues need to come to the table, and then search out to all the trustees kind of the issues that they care about, and what would not be able to pass a particular, ordinance or policy. So a leader must, have vision, long-term and short-term vision. A leader must be steadfast, have a temperament, a steady temperament, must be able to be patient, and certainly has to have tact, because we deal with very, very complex contracts. We deal with collective bargaining contracts with unions that you can imagine are very complex. So it takes a lot of effort, a lot of leadership. So I think that's what I have.
Do any River Forest residents have a direct question for Kathy?
Yeah. See, I scroll down. I don't know if I see anybody else.
Does anybody? So, you had signed the Twin Village Covenant nearly 8 months ago with Maywood. So question being, what are you specifically currently doing, what you have done over the last 8 months to further that relationship?
Yeah. So I got 25 seconds and I want to answer that. We under Erica Bachner's leadership, and Trustee Jones came to Erica Bachner, Trustee Bachner and myself, and we agreed that this was a great thing to get underway. Erica Bachner, Trustee Bachner, put together a group of all of us, the trustees, the president on both sides, and we got to know each other. That was a very, at the Maywood Finance.
I know of.
All right.
So collectively, we were in the middle of a question with Kathy Aducy having to do with Twin Village Covenant with Maywood.
Yeah.
Since it has ramifications for both villages, can we briefly finish that thought?
Maybe for 2 minutes, Sam,
For 2
because
minutes?
That's fine.
We're dedicated to getting people out by 6:30.
Okay. So, well,
whatever. I can write something up to you guys. I'd love to.
Well, I think from an economic development standpoint, from a business standpoint, it's an incredibly important opportunity across both villages to help support that initiative. And I think we're obviously going to be talking a lot more about it in Oak Park, or within the Oak Park River Forest Chamber, as we are one of, I think, number 4 on that list, to see what we can do with the support of both Oak Park and River Forest. And so my question was, Kathy, specifically as to what you're currently doing, given that it's been 8 months since that agreement was signed. What is the Village of River Forest doing? And obviously, we just went through that discussion about how well things are going, et cetera.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, like I said, Erica, Trustee Bachner has done a phenomenal job of, being focused on this covenant. Maywood, we just passed the Dominican University partnership, and very pleased about that. That focuses on diversity, equity, inclusion with as a community-wide issue, and Maywood will be part of that. We also passed a internal advisory group. Again, Trustee Bachner was key in bringing that forward and spearheading it. And so I'm really happy and Maywood be part of that. In terms of, so we've been doing a lot. This is the last 5 months. We're talking about cultural inclusion type of work. Love to see us celebrate each other's holidays. We have a Memorial Day parade. I could be part of that. We want to be able to look at, ways that we can both save money through consolidation of some buildings. I mean, we both have a public works building that are very close to each other. There's no reason why we can't collectively look at that. And there's economic development opportunities that we want to get to in terms of how we can build each other's businesses, for sure. So there's a lot going on. There's
I appreciate it, Kathy.
No time.
No, and Liz, I do apologize, but do you mind if we give Patty a moment, because we've been requested that we give her basically equal time, since it's a joint issue.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Patty, for a minute.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Patty, go ahead.
Sure. So I sort of mentioned in some of the rooms already some of my thoughts with Maywood. I think to start, we have to start building some relationship with our neighbors to the west, building some trust with our neighbors, starting with something even as simple as the the idea of a day in our village, doing a day in our villages, and doing it even in the forest preserve space. So using the space that has been a convenient barrier between our communities, having that be the space that we come together and start to get to know each other. But I absolutely would want to explore any potential opportunities from an economic development standpoint. A day in our villages type thing would expose our communities to each other in terms of what businesses we have to offer. We do a lot of natural going back and forth to 3 of our neighbors. I think we need to help encourage this back and forth using the businesses within Maywood, and so that their residents also, which a lot of them are doing anyhow, right? Coming to our Jewel and doing shopping, but doing a much better job that it's a two-way street, not so much them shopping with us and then we're not going back over to Maywood. So, but I think because we have that history of not necessarily doing that naturally, we have to help facilitate that.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you so much.
So in the interest of time, we're going to close out now, but on behalf of the Oak Park River Forest Chamber of Commerce, I want to thank all of the candidates for coming tonight, and I want to thank all of you for being a part of this process. Best wishes to all of you, and thank you so much.
Don't forget to vote.
Thank you.
Yeah, vote.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a
Yeah.
great evening.
Vote tomorrow.